ha arribat el moment. Raül, t'ho deixo a tu, que ets l'especialista en parlar anglès en aquesta casa, tu i el Ferran, i jo faré veure que us entenc. D'acord? Apa, fins ara. Adéu, guapos.
Hello, Cynthia. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for coming to Total Blitz. It's an honor for us, a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for asking. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Everyone here knows you and our audience knows who you are, but let me just do a brief introduction of yourself, just for the record. You are an NFL Network analytics expert. You're part of NFL Network, probably one of the most well-known faces. People are used to find you in NFL Game Day Morning and Fantasy Football Live, if I'm not wrong. And you're especially well-known because of your score predictions that you do every week, the wins predictions that you do every season, and the fantasy points projections, because everyone is so engaged with fantasy, even here. So it's not people here. I know no one that likes NFL and does not play fantasy football, to be fair. So I think most of our people, of our followers, know you because of these projections and predictions that you do. And we want also to congratulate you because we think it's a very interesting task that you do to make this, to bring analytics to maybe other parts of the game.
Yeah, thanks. It's fun. It's fun to like play games with the game, right? Like you get to be more a part of it and you get to feel like you have a rooting interest for every game. So it's fun. It's fun to do the predictions.
Yes. So going a bit into that projection task that you do, we are already at week 6 of the league. So it may look like it's not that all, but 6 weeks, it's almost half the season. So do you have any projection right now for this season that surprises you? Something that you've taking into account what has already happened, have you made any projection, even for yourself, just for the sake of it, onto this season, and that has surprised you, the outcome of it?
So every game, basically I look for a historical reference. So teams that have offenses that look like the Chiefs, for example, and defenses that look like theirs. What happened in the past? So what you do is you take the historical references of kind of what played out in the past, and then you simulate what could potentially happen. So there's a lot of different things that could happen in a game, and that's kind of how we you see what's most likely and what's most unlikely. So sometimes you can see when something's highly probable to happen, or when something's like very, it's very rare that it would happen in that scenario. So, it's looking for things like that. So for example, for the rest of this season, it's okay that the Bills lost yesterday. They're still going to be a good team, and they're in their division where they have some teams that are not so good. So their chances to go to the playoffs are very, very, very high. Same thing with the Chiefs. They did not get off to a strong start, but the quality of the opponent that the Chiefs have played is super high. So they're still going to be fine to make the playoffs. And then you look at a division that's not doing so well, like the AFC South, and with that win last night, the Titans actually pretty much cemented their chances to win that division. And, there's 7 playoff teams from each conference, and it's unlikely that 2 teams from the AFC South are going to make it. So that really was like a big playoff win for them. So while it wasn't super important to the Bills, it was very important for the Titans.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, analytics is like permeating other things apart from the game. But what are the teams that you think that use more analytics? What are the ones that you think that they trust analytics the most when making decisions on the field?
Well, you're seeing it with the Chargers. So until last week, the Chargers, when they went for it on 4th down, they were 7 of 7 with the quarterback on the field. They were 7 of 8, but one time it was a fake. The kicker was trying to throw the ball, so that doesn't count. So when Justin Herbert had been on the field, he was 100% converting on 4th down. So a lot of these things are strategies and ideas that they practice ahead of time, so that when they've reached them in the game, they're ready for them, and they're like, okay, well, we've seen this before. We have the exact right play. We're going to keep the defense on their heels. So often most teams on 4th down, if they haven't, they won't convert, especially early in games. So they'll punt. A different unit of the defense is on the field when they punt. So they got to sub out those players. Well, if the offense doesn't sub out their players, then the defense has to keep their 3rd down defense on. So teams get an advantage if they have the right play selected to capitalize on those mismatches with the defense. So the Chargers have embraced analytics. The Ravens have embraced analytics. The Bucks, a lot of the Browns for sure. The Carolina Panthers are pretty good at it as well. The Arizona Cardinals, they're good as well. And let's see, the San Francisco 49ers, they've been a little bit injured, but they use analytics. Most teams use it, but a lot of teams, at varying degrees of how much they'll use it in a game.
So in that way, how do you feel about all this go for it on 4-down fever that seems that this season it's all about? It's all on numbers, or there's kind of surfing the wave vibe for the coaches?
So it's kind of both, right? Like, so the interesting part here is every time in the broadcast, I hear the analytics say, and I don't even know what that means anymore because it just means nothing. Basically, they just want to say like, oh, they're going for 4th down, or they're, going for doing 2-point conversion, whatever. But it's really not true. There's a lot of things that you put yourself in higher probability situations, but we don't really know, like maybe, who Aaron Donald is, right? He's the most disruptive interior pass rusher in our game. And if your guard has been beaten up by Aaron Donald every play, maybe you shouldn't go for it, right, on 4th down, because Aaron Donald's going to come sack you, and that's not going to help out. That's actually going to put you. So there are some points that give you better opportunities than others, but I would say the teams that practice this thing and execute it in a really good way, like the Bills are actually a good analytics team as well. Not great, but good. And that 4th down play last night, prior to this game, Josh Allen had been 13 of 14 converting on 4th down. So it's not a bad call to do it, especially against the Titans defense that hadn't been known for being very strong this season. And Josh Allen slipped. Like it wasn't like the defense did something so amazing. Josh Allen lost his footing. So it was a little unlucky. And you do have to realize you're going to get unlucky, and all those kicking a field goal could have not gone in. We've seen that plenty this season too. So what you have to do is you have to take the strategy that puts you in the best situation, given your players, given what you've seen on the field, score, time, distance, down, etc. And then, you sometimes you're going to end up on the wrong side of luck. It's going to happen.
So what are the spaces with more room to grow in the analytics field? For example, player development, draft choices, game plan, injuries protection, I don't know, whatever.
Well, I would say all of them because I want everyone to get jobs in analytics, but I would say the number one area is probably in the offseason. So mapping together teams' free agents and their draft picks, because tons of teams, they take a chance drafting players early in the draft and they're wrong. You're never going to be right, but you need to make those 100% of the time, right? You need to make those decisions more and more and more right and more better. Like each time, that's terrible grammar, but whatever. They need to be better, higher quality decisions each time. So that's kind of how I see it growing the most. Like, how do you watch college in a way that can help forecast for what you want to do on the field? Because remember, it's not, the coach doesn't watch the players coming out of the draft until after the season's over. So you've got to trust your scouts. You've got to trust all of this planning you're doing ahead of time. And then coach only watches kind of right after, starting in January. That's not a lot of time when it comes to some important decisions like who your quarterback's going to be. Those things are huge. And that's how coaches get fired if they don't pick the right quarterback.
Yes, and they may only see what the previous people have just created for them to see. So they don't have the full picture. They just have a small part of it.
Yep.
Maybe with analytics, they will be able to have like a broader picture.
Just a little bit more. Like, it's not going to ever be perfect, but it's all about getting just a little bit better every single day. So a little bit more. So that's the thing. They'll get a fuller picture. You nailed it. Totally nailed it.
Mm-hmm. So one of the first things that anyone learns when starting to learn analytics is that the traditional QB rating is not the best tool for rating quarterbacks, performance at least. Why do you think it is still so broadly used? Why is people still using QB rating a lot? And which rating do you like the most for rating quarterbacks instead of that?
So the reason that we use it is because we have it. It's not that, like, I mean, I don't know. It's not that great. So what you need to do is probably, if you were a team or if you were, an analyst of certain sort, like I use my own way to forecast it because it's weird to measure a quarterback that has the skills of Tom Brady in the same way that we measure the quarterback that has the skills of Lamar Jackson. they're very different, and they face very different types of defenses, and they face because defenses will defend Tom Brady completely different than they would try to defend Lamar Jackson. So what you kind of need to do is you need to say, I map everything to first downs and touchdowns. So if I have possession of the ball and I'm able to score touchdowns, that's a really good way it gives me wins. Now, it's not foolproof because defenses can be terrible. Like the Chiefs defense has been letting them down tremendously this year. So it's not really Patrick Mahomes' fault, even though he's thrown some weird interceptions, but he's done some weird stuff before, maybe not always turnovers, but weird. And the defense, he needs a little bit of help from the defense to bail him out. But what you need to kind of figure out is tendencies, right? So if you have a quarterback who's a rushing threat on every down, Kyler Murray falls into this category. And then your defense, if your defense last week plays Kyler Murray and then this week plays Tom Brady, it's a hard transition for any defense. So the quarterback in that situation has a big advantage and the offense has a big advantage. So what you really need to measure is how often can this quarterback be counted on to get me a first down or a touchdown? And that's really where it starts and ends for me. So I look at things like, how many yards is this offense getting on first down, whether or not it's a pass or the run? Mm-hmm. And then how is this quarterback doing in situations where they're getting blitzed? Clean pocket is the best a quarterback can do, right? Nobody's coming at you, clean pocket, great. What's your passer rating? You guess you could use it in that, right? But what downs and distances are you on? So you need to kind of look at, okay, how many yards is this team averaging on first down and how are they doing it? And then how does the quarterback bail them out? Third and long, second, what happens on an obvious passing down? What is this quarterback doing? Because every quarterback has to be able to bail you out. Like even Lamar Jackson, who earns all the rushing yards on outside attempts, eventually he's going to get in third and long, right? Mm-hmm. What happens in those situations? So for me, it's kind of what's the regular situation to get first down and touchdowns, and then how do I bail you out?
Mm-hmm. So we know that you have your own analytics project, Numbers Game website. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so ultimately it's a place where, on television, and you guys know this, you have limited minutes to say all of your stuff, right? So this is a lot of math I do. It's a lot. And I don't want people who are watching to feel like they need to go to college to listen to what I'm saying, right? But if people who want to learn a little bit more or want to go more in depth in the numbers, I wanted to make sure they had a place to do it too. I also, if you want to come play against my picks every week, I coded a site for that too, just because I like the interactivity of it. I like playing against the people. It's fun. It's all about having fun with it. So, it's ultimately just a place to learn a little bit more if you want to, because it's a lot. And I understand. Look, and sometimes 90 seconds on TV can be like, here's the answer. I don't have time to tell you how I got there. It just is. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a bit about the women's presence in the NFL, both in the game and in the media. What's your opinion on that? What's your take on that? Because from our side, we think that the NFL, even though we are sure there's room for improvement, but maybe it's the big league, counting also leagues here in Europe, that has more women present everywhere, not just in some specific positions, but especially in the NFL Network, we think that it's quite representative. So tell us how you see it from the inside.
Yeah, it's an interesting note because, until about, I don't even know, not that many years ago, it was very mumuch and I still in my Twitter mentions will get back in the kitchen. And I'm like, yes. Funny for you. I love to cook. So there, ha. But, you get some things like, oh, you never played the sport. How could you possibly know? And what I found is most of my female counterparts, especially I worked at ESPN and NFL Network, and both places, and the other women I've encountered at other networks too, but I can only really speak to the two that I've worked at, from a day-to-day standpoint. We know we're required to know at least twice as much. There's no room for us to mispronounce someone's name or to, get something really badly wrong. We don't get that grace, right? We don't get that second chance. So the women that I work with, we have been helping each other. I have noticed that the NFL Network does a good job. There's a lot of really awesome, I talked to one this morning for 45 minutes just about, zone defenses. These are things that are it's real. And it's the thing about TV is it will shake you enough to show who actually knows and who doesn't. So when you watch someone, some people are like men too, are here for the fun of it, and some people really love the sport. So it's easy to tell who's a real like workhorse and who's kind of just seeing if this is their path or not.
Mm-hmm. So every week and year, we have your win predictions for every game and total wins for each team. Do you keep the track record?
Yeah, we keep my track record. We go through every single week. It's first of all, I've never deleted anything, so it's all there. I mean, I have no shame. There's no everything we put out, we pay off. So we track it weekly. We as gambling's become, it's different in Europe than America with gambling. Not every state in sports gambling has it legal yet. We're all trying to navigate the path. As of right now, the NFL, we have gambling partners, but we don't talk about we don't track things like against the spread that's not how we operate, because we're trying to navigate this as best we can, right? So we just track like wins and losses and straight, but we have everything out there. So, there are independent sites, one called SharpRank that I really like. They track everything too, for every media outlet. The interesting part about a lot of media pundits is we're not charging anyone to watch our show. I mean, you have a cable bill, but that's not, there's no, it's all about inclusiveness and creating community around, the thing about gambling and track records and stuff is that it's fun. I'm from Michigan. I'm a Lions fan. This is a terrible life. Don't be a Lions fan. But, I can, for 4 hours, you can decide to be a Lions fan with me, and we can, you can see how many yards Jared Goff passes for. And it doesn't have to be for money. It can be for just fun and community. So we're really trying to navigate the classiest and best way to handle how the legalization of gambling in America really becomes a way to make our sport better and more fun and more engaging for more people. So we're not there yet. It's not perfect. And there's lots of different ways. Gambling's been around since the beginning of time. So, we understand certain things, but at the end of the day, it's really about, let's all have our open community and transparency about it. And it's super, that's why part of what I have on, on pretty good picks is where you can go play against my pick. You can see every pick I've ever made for the past 5 years. Go ahead and enjoy, knock yourself out. But it's a good rate. I'm in good shape. I keep improving my algorithm every week, but we're in good shape.
Cool. So you also have your own analytics approach on fantasy football. For example, last week on Fantasy Football Live on NFL Network, you talk about picking Metcalf over Lockett, considering that Geno Smith was the starting quarterback for the Seahawks. How do you make that prediction? That if I also say that I didn't follow your advice and
and he lost to me. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Look, the best you can do is you can look at the historical reference points. What has Geno Smith done? He has a pretty long track record. He hadn't started in 4 years. The last start was with the Giants. It was breaking Eli Manning's streak of starts, but you can see what types of routes is he. So when the wide receiver runs the routes, which one is Geno best at targeting? So what are Geno's tendencies? What routes do DK run? Given what we know about their offense, we have a number of games now, so we can see who runs which routes, and then who's the matchup that they're facing, right? So which defender will he be matched up? Which one of the secondary from the Steelers is he most likely to be matched up on? And then who has the advantage in those situations? The thing about DK is he's huge, right? So he's very big. He can catch tight window passes. Those two things showed as a plus for one and a minus for the other. So that means good things for DK, right? A plus for DK and a minus for the Steelers defense. Good things happen for, it's just higher probability situations. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. It just means this one has a better chance of happening than that one.
Okay, let me ask one last question, because we know you're on a tight schedule. So if you had to project who plays the Super Bowl right now, what do you think the model would say?
Oh, I know it. I just looked at this actually. So before the season, I had the Chiefs and the Packers. Now the Chiefs have played themselves out of that one bye. So there's only one. There used to be 2 byes in each conference. They've played themselves out. They're not likely to get that one bye in the AFC. So as of right now, I actually have the Buffalo Bills facing the Green Bay Packers. Crazy. I thought it would be the Bucks, but nope, it's Buffalo Bills and the Green Bay Packers.
Enrique is a Green Bay Packers supporter, as you can see. He's very happy to hear that.
There you go. There you go. I like it.
He's so used to lose at the conference final, the conference game, that just hearing going back to the Super Bowl makes him happy.
That's great. I love it.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. If you're here for the Super Bowl, come say hello.
Okay. Well, hopefully, but I don't. It's hard. It's hard to predict something like this. Our model right now is not predicting us going to the USA to the Super Bowl. But we'll
stay
keep
safe
working on
and
that.
We'll see what happens. The model can be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully,
without with our boss.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Cynthia.
Bye.